Hi guys, it's Ben Heath from Lead Guru, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the business type that generates the best possible results with Facebook ads. I know it's not dropshipping, it's not affiliate marketing, it's nothing that's popped up overnight. It's something that you're very familiar with, but you might be surprised to hear the answer that I'm going to give in a minute. Now, before I get into that, I just want to very quickly ask for you to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. That really helps me out. Okay, so what business type produces the best results with Facebook ads? And the difference between the type of business you have and the results you see from Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns is enormous. And I'll explain that more about that in a minute. But I think this is a really important question. It's really important for people who want to offer Facebook advertising services or own Facebook ads agencies like I do. You want to work out which type of business you can most easily produce the best results for. It's also really important if you're into marketing, you've got some Facebook advertising skills, and you're wanting to start a business. You're thinking, what type of business should I start? What's going to deliver the best results? Where am I going to have the most success? And the type of business that produces the best results for Facebook ads, always, just no questions asked, is low competition businesses that have a high average customer value. Now, you can probably start to see why that would be beneficial. Low competition, it's not that hard to stand out from all the other Facebook advertisers advertising a similar thing. High average customer value, each time you get a customer, it's worth a lot to your business. Now, I'll give some examples and explain. High average customer value businesses are often service-based businesses. You almost certainly going to spend more on a service for the most part than you are on most products. Now, there are exceptions like, houses and cars and things like that. But for the most part, services are going to cost a lot more than products do. So they tend to be services. And low competition Facebook advertisers tend to be local businesses. So you end up with businesses like roofers. I famously talked about interior design companies before a lot. These, it could be B2B as well. But these sorts of businesses where when you hire that business to do whatever it is you're going to do, you're likely to spend thousands, tens of thousands of dollars with them. But there aren't tons of alternatives that you could use. So let's take the example of a roofer, okay? How many roofing companies are there in your local area that you could potentially work with? Well, it's probably a handful, depending on where you live. There could be lots. But that's not going to be anywhere near as much as, say, if you're selling e-commerce product on Facebook. If you're selling apparel or jewelry or some of the more popular e-com product ranges, you might be competing against 10,000, 20,000 Facebook advertisers selling the exact same thing to the exact same audience. You're trying to reach the same people. Now, you might be differentiated in terms of your niche and all that, but that's not what I'm talking about here. Your customers, if you're selling, say, jewelry on Facebook ads, could buy from 10,000 other Facebook advertisers, most likely. However, if you've got a leak in your roof and you want a roofer, how many other roofers could you hire? Might be 10. Might be, if you're in a large city, might be 30, 40. Okay, how many of those roofers are advertising on Facebook? 2 or 3? Probably. That's it. So if you're a Facebook advertiser and you're thinking, right, I can compete against 10,000 other people advertising shoes, or I can compete against 3 roofers, and I can guarantee there'll be marketers in those 10,000 that are far, far better than the roofers in your local area. The competition there makes it so much easier to succeed and to stand out if you're advertising roofing services in a local area where there are only 30, 40 businesses that could provide the services that you provide to the customers you're advertising to. Only 3 or 4 of those advertising on Facebook, as opposed to this other side of things where if you're selling shoes, the customers could buy from 50,000 different companies, 10,000 of which, 20,000 of which are advertising on Facebook. So that's the competition side of it that is just absolutely massive. And what that means is that you don't have to necessarily build a massive brand in order to get a competitive advantage. You don't have to come up with epic ad creative with influencers and all this sort of stuff that you often have to do on, say, the larger e-commerce scale. Because, as I said, if I'm sure you've had this experience where you're into something, you search for it online. I did this recently with a home gym. With the pandemic and everything, I wanted to set up a home gym in my garage, and then my whole newsfeed just home gym equipment, boom, 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 throughout. So you've had that experience, right? You have to do a lot to stand out in that environment because there's so many other providers. Whereas with the roofer, you don't. You could literally probably advertise your services, advertise a free survey, for example, and it can work because you stand out. People will click through, they'll become leads. The other part of it is the financial side of it. I'm going to do a little bit of maths here, but nothing too mathsy in case, I know a lot of marketers sort of naturally don't like the math side of things. Let's say you're a roofer. Average customer value might be, let's say, $12,000. I don't think that's unreasonable. You go from relatively inexpensive repairs that are going to be less than that, but to full roof replacements that are going to be considerably more than that. Let's say your average customer value is $12,000, okay? I would say that for a roofer, if you're advertising in a country like the US, you should be able to generate leads quite comfortably for $50 each. That should not be much of a challenge. In fact, I would say that a high quality Facebook ad campaign most likely produce better results than that. But let's say $50 each. And let's say you convert 1 in 5, which again, someone who's really good at their job, has competitive pricing, is probably going to produce a higher conversion rate than that. But let's be pessimistic around it, okay? So generating leads $50 each, you're converting 1 in 5. So that means your cost per customer is $250 because you need 5 leads per each customer. Would you be willing to pay $250 to acquire a $12,000 customer on average? Absolutely. Now, of course, out of that $12,000, you've got cost of materials, you've got staff to pay, etc., etc. But that campaign is undeniably going to be profitable. Like it's almost impossible for you to not make that profitable, unless, I don't know, you mess up the roof and you have to pay damages or something. It's so difficult for that not to work. Whereas if you launch a campaign for an e-com situation where you've got high competition, low average customer value, it's very, very easy for that campaign not to be profitable. In fact, you have to often work really hard to make that campaign profitable once you factored in cost of advertising, cost of goods, and all that sort of stuff. Whereas with the roofer, that's not true at all. I've got a case study, in fact, on our website. You can go to leadguru.co.uk where we've put together information on an interior design company that we ran a campaign for. And I can't remember the exact number, but it's in the 60s is the return on ad spend that we produced. So this is a UK-based company, for every £1 we spent on Facebook and Instagram ads, we generated more than £60 in revenue. And again, that is really quite easy to do, because if the average customer for that business is something like £50,000, that's still spending, that comes out something like £800 per new customer. So your budget to acquire a new customer is very healthy, very, very healthy, but it's still massively profitable, which is fantastic. And the thing is, let's go back to the roof, for example, where you've got a $12,000 average customer value. If you were advertising a service that had an average customer value of $120, so that would be 1% of the average customer value, $12,000 down to 120, that's 1% of the average customer value. But it's not like you're going to generate leads for 1% of the cost. So your cost per lead isn't going to go from $50 down to 1%, which would be 50 cents. Okay? No chance. There's no way you're generating leads. Now, you might generate leads for $20. So you could 100x your average customer value, but only increase your cost per lead by 2.5 times. I mean, that is such a fantastic situation to be in. Not to mention that a lot of these businesses that are low competition, high average customer value, they're local, they're service providers. There's just tons. I've mentioned a couple there, but you could have lawyers in all sorts of fields. Accountants, bookkeepers, although that can be provided remotely, so that increases the competition. But there are so many, anything to do with the property, kitchen fitters, bathroom fitters, landscaping, things that people spend thousands often of dollars on that you need a local company for. There's going to be very limited competition. These businesses just perform super, super well. So not only are you looking at lower competition levels, much better finances, you're also so well protected going forward. If you've got like an e-commerce business and you're operating at a 2x ROAS and that works for you right now, if the cost of Facebook ads increases at all, you might be in a situation where your campaigns are no longer profitable. Whereas the local service business, the high average customer value, low competition business, could see a doubling in their customer acquisition costs, not really bat an eyelid. when we work with these sorts of businesses, we're never scaling based on, oh, is the ROAS gotten too low? It's always based on their capacity. It's always like, okay, we start working with a roofer, we get them enough business so that they're just maxed out over the next 3 months. We have to turn the campaigns off. That happens all the time. It's always the way those go, because those campaigns sit at a 40x ROAS. You know, they're not worried if that goes to a 32x ROAS. Okay, it's just all about them getting capacity in their own internal systems and things along those lines. So it's not, you know, it's not super exciting. It's not super interesting to think of the local service business being the one that produces the best results of Facebook ads, but it's absolutely true. If you're an agency owner, these are the best types of businesses to work with. 100%. These are the ones that you can come as close to guaranteeing results for as possible. And if you're, let's say, a marketer, you want to launch your own business, you're probably more leaning towards like an e-commerce setup or something, I would encourage you to think about starting a local high-end service business. That's absolutely, if I was, you know, couldn't operate in the Facebook ads industry as an agency, which is obviously my core of expertise, and I was just cut down to nothing, that's absolutely where I'd start. Now, how I do it, obviously I don't have the skills, is I would partner with someone. I would partner with someone that is a roofer, that is an architect, that is a landscaper, and I would say, let's enter into business. I will handle all the marketing. I will ensure that we have a steady stream of leads and customers. You can handle the deliverables. And there's lots of people that have those skills, that have landscaping skills or have architect skills, but they have no idea how to market a business. And that's another thing why not only is there low competition, so it's easy to stand out, but you see a lot of the marketing that say, if you look at the marketing that your local roofing businesses do, it's awful. Not always, there are exceptions, but a lot of it is so old school. You look at their websites and they haven't been touched in a decade and they just look terrible. It's so easy to get a competitive advantage there. So that's really what I would encourage you to do. And I often get asked, like, what would I do if I started again and couldn't operate in the Facebook ads world? I would run Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns for a, you know, high-end landscaper who I'd partner with. They'd handle all the actually doing the work. I'd handle all the customer acquisition. And I think that would work incredibly well. In fact, I know it would, given the experience that I've got. The challenge would be finding someone to take you up on that. But, you know, there's a lot of people in those spaces that would just love to not think about customer acquisition and just get on with the doing roofs all the time or, you know, fitting bathrooms all day long, as opposed to, oh, do I have to post on LinkedIn and get customers and go to networking groups and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so maybe that's a little bit long-winded, but I really wanted to break this down because I'm going to have more content on this in the future, because I think the type of business that you have makes such a huge difference to your Facebook ad performance. And I'm not saying, by the way, that you shouldn't run Facebook ads for e-commerce businesses on, that's not true at all. Like, you could have fantastic success. What I'm saying is to get those campaigns profitable and to get them delivering a high ROAS is much harder than for these local high-end service providers. You're never going to get a 60x ROAS with a e-com business. I mean, just no chance. No chance. You're probably really happy with a 4x ROAS a lot of the time. That's probably profitable. Now, of course, with e-commerce businesses, because you're not advertising locally, you're advertising to much wider audiences, there's the opportunity to scale there. And you might be saying, yeah, but if I just have a local business in my town, how can I scale it? Well, you could also then open another one in the next town over and another one in the next town over, and you could expand that way. But there is, you know, scaling can't happen as fast. So there are definitely advantages to running Facebook ads for e-commerce business. But what I'm saying is the best results from a ROAS, return on ad spend standpoint, it's local, high-end service providers, often things to do with the home or high-end local B2B services where, you know, like the roofer can pay $250 to acquire a customer. If you told a lot of businesses that, it's going to cost you $250 to acquire a customer, they'd be like, what? I could never afford to pay that. Okay. So yeah, that's what I recommend. Okay, before you go, a couple of things I want to quickly mention. The first is our Facebook advertising services. So my company, Lead Guru, is a Facebook ads agency. We create, manage, and optimize Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns for our clients. And particularly if you're a local service business, but if you're an e-com business or any type of business, we work with businesses across the board, and we can certainly work to improve your results and get you great results on the platform. And you're interested in working with us, you can book a call with one of my team members. Link is in the video description below. Free 30-minute call, no obligation. We do ask that you have a 3K minimum budget, because we need that to be able to work with you, really. So we do ask that you have that before you book the call, but if you meet that criteria, go ahead and get that call booked in, and hopefully be working together and helping you improve your results. If you enjoyed that video, please give it a thumbs up, comment below to let me know. I think people are going to find this topic quite interesting, so please pop that in the comments if you did, what you think about what I'm saying, if you've seen the same sort of thing, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye for now. Bye-bye.